So this is the walkthrough of our trench project. So trenches were these long, narrow ditches that were dug in for defensive positions. For just your average soldier in a trench, they would usually wake up, have breakfast, and perhaps talk to a few soldiers. Maybe they have to talk to the commander about what they're deciding to do. So then they have to do multiple chores such as filling up sandbags and maintaining the trench. The soldiers had a hard and tough life in the trenches as they were stuck there for weeks without being able to shower or change clothes. They also had the same foods every day, usually. It's like those canned food, MRE stuff. So it was never fresh. And until you can't really enjoy war unless you're like quite a psychopath. And they were also tormented by rats eating their food. And this horrible disease called trench foot also happened during trench warfare. So basically, trench foot happens when your feet gets wet and then you don't dry it off properly. And like soldiers in the trench warfare, they're not able to dry it off properly, which causes their foot to kind of rot away, which would cause them to the need to amputate it. The most enjoyable parts of their day would even be to sleep, even though the sleeping conditions are truly horrible. But you're getting sleep at least. So they were able to play cards during less intensive times, and smoking a cigarette definitely be a highlight of their day. The trenches were also extremely wet and soggy. The Germans, however, evolved a more elaborate defense using pillboxes and concrete shelters for machine guns. Behind these pillboxes were more lines of barbed wire and more trenches and dugouts reinforced with concrete to withstand artillery bombardment. So, as you can see, these trenches represent the German trenches just a little more because there's beds and stuff, there's just storage compartments, just overall, a better trench. The both sides, however, use a very similar strategy in trench warfare. Basically, you would have a lot of people charge across no man's land. We know this is no man's land because of the skulls and the barbed wires. So this is no man's land. So they would charge across no man's land. And they would likely get shot by the tens of thousands of riflemen sitting here waiting to shoot them. You can just imagine a row of them shooting here, and then everyone just like that. And it's like impossible to get across. Even if you manage to overtake the enemy trench, the mass would be massive. The loss would be massive for just a few inches of land, which is usually not worth it. They may try tunneling under the enemy trench, but most of the time it does not work because the ground is just so soggy and wet, and it's possible to fall on them, which also leads to great loss. Poison gas tanks and machine guns were also introduced in World War I, which largely benefited the side that created it. You could say overall, trenches were a pretty good defense. With the technology at the time and the location of this war, of the trench warfare of the Western Front, there's not much you can do. It's so open. Where are you supposed to try to defend yourselves? You have to dig inside. So the improvement I can have for the trenches is to have them for having more space to fit equipment to help soldiers, and so it's easier for the soldiers to stay healthy and not develop trench foot. Maybe more like the German trenches, or even further than the German trenches would be good, but that would cause a larger economical strain on the country. So that is our walkthrough of our trench project.